the second hour if you want, if you've seen it. But I had a chance to watch over the weekend the Wolfgang Van Halen Behind the Music. For those of you that don't know, the Paramount Plus, which is the streaming arm of Viacom, which is the streaming arm of VH1, brought back streaming only the old series from VH1 Behind the Music, which was super popular back in the day and super well done. So they brought it back a couple years ago, and most of the stuff they did was re-edits of the old ones and maybe dropped in like 5 minutes of new footage. And those are up there on the streaming platform. But they actually started doing some new ones, and one of those was on Wolfgang Van Halen. They are not all on rock artists. There's very few rock ones, actually. But this one was on Wolf, which is interesting because obviously Wolfgang Van Halen's music career, as far as with his own band, has not really been all that long. It's 2 albums. But there's the connection, obviously, to his dad and that whole history. So I watched this thing over the weekend. And it is phenomenal. And if you get a chance and you have Paramount Plus, I cannot recommend it more highly. And here's why. Not only is it very emotional and very touching, and it puts an incredibly human side on what Wolf is dealing with the loss of his dad. Because to us as fans, we just know the guitar hero. But obviously this is personal, and it's his family, and it's his dad, and that is very well stressed in the documentary. And of course it does cover Wolf as a little kid and joining Tremonti and playing in Van Halen, and then of course making the Mammoth WVH records. It talks to some of his band members in Mammoth. Obviously his mom, Valerie Bertinelli, is prominently featured. His uncle is prominently featured in it. But the thing about this documentary is it also is extreme. It really opens the door on Eddie Van Halen's final years and what he truly went through with his cancer battle and everything that went on. And we have never seen any story told of this from firsthand accounts, and this is that. And we get, as we talk about so often, so little from the Van Halen camp in terms of interviews, in terms of press, in terms of re-releases. For whatever reason, we know there was never a tribute. And Van Halen fans generally are starved for anything Van Halen related, any insights. This is that. This is as firsthand as it gets from Valerie, from the people that work directly with Eddie Van Halen. It is fully sanctioned. It is the most revealing account of Van Halen and the final years of Van Halen that has ever been done. And it's also very emotional and very touching, and Wolf understandably breaks down several times during it. So I was shocked at how a band and an organization that is so incredibly closed off in so many ways, that this was that open. And you got to see it. It's really, really amazing. And kudos to Wolf for doing it and putting the story out there. And, you know, maybe in some ways it was even cathartic for him. I don't know. Maybe I'll even see about talking to him about it, because it's really, really well done. So that is on Paramount Plus now. If you go to the Behind the Music tab, you'll see the one on Wolfgang Van Halen, and there's a ton of VH stuff, as you would expect, in there, and it's all laid out. Interestingly, the one person who did not do an interview in it that you would have thought, you knew Roth wasn't going to be in there. Sammy Hagar not in there. Michael Anthony in there, not in there. That's kind of not surprising. What I was a little surprised by is Alex Van Halen is not in there, because this is really the Van Halen story from the family perspective, and Alex is not included in it. And we know Alex is a pretty reclusive guy, but we also know Alex has a book coming out about his relationship with his brother. So we speculated, will Alex do press for the book? Who knows? But he did not participate in this film, and I'm assuming that was his decision and he declined. But Valerie Bertinelli's in there. A guy named Matt Bruck is in there, who's very, very close with Wolf and was very close to Eddie Van Halen and ran the studio and I believe the guitar end and all that. Very, very, it's not like, oh, they were talking to somebody who, knew him one time 20 years ago. No, these are the immediate family people who know the real story and really let it go out there. So very, very well done. Check it out if you get a chance. And again, if you saw it, you want to comment on it, we'll take some calls in just a bit here on the show. And lastly, I wanted to give a shout out to